Hi everyone, welcome to another exciting comics loving edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. Delighted on this episode to be talking with comics creator C. Michael Lanning. Should I call you Michael? Is that okay?
I usually go by C, actually.
Okay,
So,
all right, very cool, very
yeah.
cool. So C, thank you for jumping in and joining, and I'll mention a
Oh,
couple
yeah.
of pieces that I know you for, Bunbot being one of those that I've seen out on the web recently, and I'm
Oh,
probably going to mispronounce this, but Magi's Grace?
yes.
Yep.
Yes, that's right. That's absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. I try to follow along and keep up with the things. So appreciate the work you're doing and curious
Oh,
how
thank you.
curious how you landed in the world of comics.
Uh, I enjoy creating. So I actually, of course, I used to draw when I was younger. I ended up, but when I got older, I was writing some,
Hmm, hmm.
doing a lot of writing, taking classes and writing and things like that. And I kind of got to a point where I always talk about it as the narcissist in me that I could write something, but you're going to imagine however you're going to imagine it, and I want you to see it the way I want to see it. So I really kind of sort of going back into art and learning how to draw better and perfect that technique so that you could see what's in my head. It doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily come out that way, but that's the premise of it.
Love it, love it. Yeah, absolutely. And love comics as a way of creating that way and kind of exploring things.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Uh, Curious about the kinds of stories, the kinds of projects that you're drawn to, kind of your sweet spot of creating.
Weird stuff, really. Just
Yeah, yeah.
lighthearted stuff. Things that are just a little bit up and beyond, ordinary. Like for instance, I just finished reading the manga Doro, which
Mm,
is
mhm.
kind of it's weird because there's magicians in one world, they come into the human world, and there's devils. It's just that's a whole bunch of weird stuff. So that's kind of the stuff I'm really kind of drawn to. It's
Mhm.
just weird things. But sometimes nice stuff, like say for instance, you have Bot, which I have that. I did Doghouse for Hasm, which is
Mhm. Mhm.
also anthropomorphic animals. So that and the good thing about Bot was it was both. I was able to do anthropomorphic and human at the
Yeah.
same time, so that was cool. So
Yeah, yeah. And there is something about animal stories and ways to use characters. There's it's kind of a fun thing, I imagine, on the creative side.
oh, absolutely. When you're younger and drawing, I remember drawing Darkwing Duck a
Oh
lot.
yeah. Hmm, hmm.
And you kind of go, I'm going to lean into just drawing animals because humans are scary to draw. And but as you learn and as you grow in learning how to draw, it becomes an all-encompassing thing. It's not just, oh, I have to draw animals because I feel more comfortable drawing animals. I don't feel comfortable drawing any of it. So
Uh-huh.
it's really, but
Yeah.
yeah, so able to venture out into doing human illustration and things like that, and it's fun doing both sides. I've been asked before, well, do you prefer anthropomorphic over human? And no, really, to me, they're both the same thing. They're just different creatures, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And curious about kind of along the path, some of those connections, some of the people that have been supportive, as well as some of the positive experiences and collaborations that you've had.
oh, okay. Well, my wife runs the Independence Comic Network,
Mm-hmm, hmm.
independencecomicnetwork.com. And so a lot of that support there from people like Daphne Lage, Magi's Grace is with her husband JD Calderon, who has his own show on the ICN too.
Hmm,
Um,
hmm.
but I'm working on something right now with Chad Perkins. It's just kind of crazy. It was really cool about that is we have a tat for tat type of thing happening. I guess it's he'll come up with something. We'll end up spending all day long talking back and forth with text. I'm in Louisiana, he's in Michigan, and
Hmm.
it's like I'll come up with if I come up with a name for something, some crazy thing, because what we're working on is going to be kind of weird, obviously, and funny. But I'll come up with the name for a villain. I said, okay, come up with a story for that, and he'll come up with something for that, and then we'll just play off each other. So that's really great to do.
Yeah.
Um, and then I do I just finished a book for Dr. Flaw Comics called Captain Save-A-Ho, and it's not like it sounds, but it's a fun book. And the good thing about that was he kind of had a loose script. So
Hmm.
I was able to expand on that, not necessarily expand on the script, do what he asked to do, but he kind of gave me leeway to play with those images, which I really enjoy to do.
Nice, nice. And uh, as you kind of look at your style, any particular influences, any particular people that have kind of gotten you into comics, kept you into comics?
Uh, I used to have favorite artists, and then every week they changed.
Right, right.
So it was, oh, this guy's great. I'm going to go with this guy. So I don't really have a favorite artist. Uh, but the artist that kind of like Humberto Ramos has been
Oh
a
yeah.
uh,
Hmm.
has been an influence to me for years since Crimson back in '99.
Hmm.
Um, let's see. Then he has a protege named Francisco Herrera.
Hmm.
Francisco
Hmm.
Herrera. And I've got like several of his sketchbooks that I just collected. uh, and then their influences was Carlos Meglia, which I enjoy really looking at Carlos's stuff. Of course, Carlos isn't with us anymore. He passed some years back, but his stuff is still influential. Um, I kind of draw it from different places. Oscar Martin, who's done Tom and Jerry and the solo
Hmm.
stuff. Rob Guillory's was actually who does Chew. He was actually the first person to ever look at my portfolio,
Oh,
and
nice, nice.
and I actually have a printed fan art in one of his farmhands. So that's way back when. So that's cool. So he was an inspiration too. I mean, it's just so many things.
Yeah.
I could sit by the time. Look, I'll get off of here, and I'll remember five or six other people by the time it's over with.
Well,
Uh,
that's like the show. Every time I reach out to somebody to talk to, I'm like, oh yeah, and I could talk to them, and oh, I wonder if they do podcasting. And
yeah,
it's a very cool world, very cool world.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Uh, it's fun because cause the internet and StreamYard and Zoom and all that, it really brought a lot of people together and you can draw off of influence from each other too in your own experiences. So
Hmm.
that's really cool. And that's happened a lot in the past. So I've only been doing like online, this kind of thing for about, oh, since 2020. So what, almost 4 years, going on 4 years now.
Yeah.
So, but so yeah, I've gotten to meet some people, some really cool people. And, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, Also curious about kind of the process you go through. Are you a digital creator? Do you prefer more the traditional kind of things, kind of approach, I should say?
Well, I am digital for the most part, mostly because of the speed
Hmm.
and the readiness of it and the price. Once you get past the initial price point, you don't have to continually buying pencils or continually buying, inks or even though I do have a lot of that stuff around here too, but uh I don't really have necessarily a preference
Hmm.
because while most of the stuff that I do as far as comics and things are concerned are digital, I do have traditional stuff. I'm drawing and sketching a good part of my day anyway.
Yeah.
So it's just how it is.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I have one more official question, and then we can, of course, hit anything that we've missed, any particular
Okay.
titles that you want to mention, things like that. Curious about what's next in your creating, kind of the worlds that you'd like to create in, and curious about the spaces where people can go to learn a little bit more.
Okay. Um, well, let's see. The next thing I'm working on right now, I just finished the Dr. Flaw comics. That should be coming out. Uh, let's see. Working on Magi's Grace 2. the second issue, and then right now we're doing as far as like podcasting or this, online and stuff like that. I've got Art Style Kamikaze that I actually do with my daughter on Saturday nights. And I kind of just picked something and we just kind of go over it. Like last week, I found a whole bunch of Shonen Jumps and we kind of went over that or go over character creation, like the Etherington brothers who do How to Think When You Draw. We'll pull out a tutorial for them
Hmm. Hmm.
and just kind of go over that and just do that, those kind of things. And that's fun. We just brought back Sketchy Saturday, which is usually a bunch of us that get together that are in the art community. Christy Shin, Russ Leach,
Hmm. Hmm.
several different people, and will come on and we just draw and talk. And sometimes it got a little wild last Saturday, but for whatever. And sometimes it's about tips, sometimes it's just about whatever comes up. But and then there's a whole bunch of stuff coming, like with Chad Perkins, who did he does Blue Lullaby. He's got the upcoming Set the Hook and Sparkle Dog. Blue Lullaby from Mercosia, I think is what that
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
So and we're just gonna do a show together because if you should hear our phone conversations, it gets wild. So we're just gonna let everybody hear our phone conversations.
Nice.
Um,
Sounds very comfortable too.
yeah, yeah, right. But we're gonna be well, we're working on we did a show about a year ago called Build a Comic. It didn't work out too well. There was a lot of things going on in both of our lives at the time that
Mm.
it didn't mesh out too well. He was going through something. I ended up being diagnosed with an autoimmune disease that was rough at the time. So
Yeah. Yeah.
uh but but we were creating a comic called Cyborg Devil Girls. And how that ended up coming about, it was just like I threw it out there one time and we just kind of ran with it. So it's going to be kind of a villain of the week type thing
Hmm.
where we
Hmm.
just have like one of them's a lunatic where it's kind of like a werewolf type tick. A guy turns into a tick like a werewolf. We you got like covens of baristas. They just weird stuff. And basically Cyborg Devil Girls is it kind of comes up to there's this evil wizard. He tries to, summon these demons. It doesn't come out right. He does it incomplete. Um, an incomplete ritual. They all come out kind of deformed or whatever. So he kind of fits them together with cybernetics, but they
Mm.
ended up getting a hold of the internet, and so they really want to do good, but he wants to he wants to hurt them. And even though they're trying to do good, they're very misled in some of the stuff that they do. So that kind of thing. And I think we're going to probably give that one out for free for a little while, and then maybe Kickstarter or something down the road. We'll see.
Yeah.
But Magi's Grace with JD Calderon, who does Oswald Chronicles. Uh, but we have that's a four. Magi's Grace is about four issues, and it's basically Lovecraft meets Dracula is how I do it. And it's I don't know. I'm not really a Lovecraft fan. I don't really know Lovecraft that well. The only thing that I have read is The Shadow over Innsmouth.
Mm. Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
a, a little bit of the Necronomicon, even though that wasn't really Lovecraft, but it's because of Lovecraft that it exists in a way.
Yeah.
Um, it's but in Innsmouth, basically the fish people there are being turned into vampires, and that's when we have Grace and her partner Magi are out there trying to stop that from happening. So that's a four
Nice.
issue. We have the one issue out, I think, and then we're going to have the second one. I don't know when the second one's going to come out. Hopefully by the end of the year. So we'll see.
Cool.
Uh,
Cool.
and then from Hasm, I did Doghouse last year, which is kind of I like to call it like a Miami Vice with dogs kind of thing. I think they have a different tagline for it. But and then I finished the second issue of them earlier this year,
Mm.
and
Hmm.
they'll be kickstarting that pretty soon too. So that's
Nice.
about it for right now.
That sounds like a good bit. It sounds like you're a
Yeah.
fairly busy and active person. And any convention spaces, any places where you kind of keep up, share information, and those kind of things.
I mean, I have lanningart.com, Lenning
Mm-hmm.
art.com. I don't really, I've never really done a convention. Uh, I'm not too sure if I will do one or not, to be honest with you, because I'm not sure if it's beneficial if I'm not going to lose money on it.
Right.
Louisiana doesn't have really that many cons. They're really small cons out in the middle of the stick sometimes, or you have a big con, which is in like Wizard World they have in New Orleans, which is about 45 an hour from where I'm at. But it's like they always want to do it right there after the first of the year, like sometimes New Year weekend. It's like, golly, you're doing it right after Christmas and everything. It just doesn't work out too well. So
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I get that.
yeah.
The travel is real, and I know lots of creators put time in, and then of course have to go and promote yourself and all of that. It's like three full-time jobs, from what I understand.
Yeah, yeah. But when you're buying a table, and the question is how much you're going to spend and where they're going to put that table. And
Hmm.
then you're kind of, and then now cons, they're not really necessarily just, they're not, they call them Comic Cons, but they're not just Comic Cons. You
Yeah.
have, your celebrities and everything else. So people are not really going there for comics. They're going there to see the Lord of the Ring hobbits or something around those lines, which is
Hmm.
fine. I like the Lord of the Rings next, just the next person. So that's but as far as does it benefit me to be in Artist Alley and as far as that concerned, when I can reach just as much here
Right.
from over the internet and on Instagram, on Facebook, on so on and so forth. And it's about the same thing as what people passing by are standing there trying to get an autograph from the next famous actor or whatever.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
you know, and those are fun. Those are fun. I mean, cons are fun. They are. So I'm not trying to. I don't want to sound like I'm throwing. I'm not begrudging, especially not the Lord of the Rings. I liked Elijah Wood, so I'm not
Oh
begrudging
yes, yes.
Elijah Wood. But I'm not begrudging that. I'm just saying it's not necessarily beneficial for me in that regard. And I could be wrong. I'm open to being wrong about that. So,
I understand. I completely understand. Yeah. Well, glad to talk with you. C. Glad
yeah.
to talk through creating. You mentioned Russ Leach a little while ago, and I had
Oh
the
yeah.
chance to talk with him, and I believe he's coming back for another episode at
Oh,
some
excellent.
point
Yeah.
soon. Yeah, yeah. So wonderful
Yeah.
to be part of the creative community and to share about creators. And kudos to your wife as well for handling so much with those those parts of the process. I know that there's a lot that goes into that too, I'm sure.
Yeah, see, that's like when it comes to Independence Comedy Network, I had to tell somebody, well, what do you do for as far as the ICN? All I do is the shows.
Mhm.
She handles all the other stuff, all the promotion and everything. Uh, so I don't think anybody would know who I was if it wasn't for her. And I know a lot of people say that about their wife, but for her, it's definitely the truth. She puts in a lot of work to it. So,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, on that note, I will let you go for now, but hope to talk again sometime in the
yeah.
near future, and always glad to hear about projects as they come to be.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me on. It was been a pleasure.
Yeah, likewise, likewise, absolutely. Thanks so much.